You all make me proud.
Violet Melodious Phantasm just resubscribed for 39 months, and yet, even now, 39 months of cows are rolling at you.
Yep. Oh god. Oh. Too many cows. Oh god. Thank you for the subscription, V. I greatly appreciate your support. Over 3 years now. Let's say V, say something in chat, but you can't hear me. Okay, so you need to stop eating these chips. Okay. You know, I'm gonna say something kind of problematic. I don't think Great Britain was all that great. But we're starting case 4.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
I do like these intros. Did you sleep last night? Good start, Isabel. Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruto? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms are so luxurious. I felt like we were staying in a palace. With all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than day, even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Birdia, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except when I learned that we owed £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. Ugh, London is a scary place. Ah, good morning to you at this early hour. Oh, yes, we are, well... Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Susato-san is amazing. She doesn't even bat an eyelid even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes, I believe he had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices. No, yes, it was very eye-opening. Thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruto performed his duty to the end. Yes. I've already been apprised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. Oh! No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land. Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now. Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem. Another case? Already? Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I? It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it. What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? I'm so curious why no one else would defend him. Is it because they all think he's shifty? I can't help but wonder if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruto! It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended. Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer. Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Mr. McGilded... Oh! Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial. What? Mr. McGilded is dead? I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds till my next engagement. Time enough to talk. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead? He was alive less than 24 hours ago. After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom. Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of. Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames. No. How could such a thing have happened? That is being investigated as we speak, but already the police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded. That's awful. The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere. That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened? That is also being investigated as we speak. Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Yeah, the bailiff let him in. Examining the omnibus again, so I'm told. Asked if I could be present for it myself. An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage. But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about? Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police. Poor Mr. McGilded. So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court? Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow. He means the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, she has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. Okay, so I believe he mentioned this where it's like the asides are him speaking in Japanese, most likely. The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can. The most advanced in the world, is it? It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair. Simple? That was simple? No, that was Mr. McGilded. It was a trial you couldn't lose. I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. Circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favorable verdict. Is something funny? No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent. Wouldn't you agree? Well, I don't know about that. Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much is an undeniable truth, which is precisely why I've prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before. What's he gonna say before? Sorry. Had to take my bra off. Really hot. Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me. It's a murder, and the trial starts in 10 minutes. Don't worry. It's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different. Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? That is to say, no one has died. As yet. And the trial will not be today. There is plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise. 18, 17, 16. So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused. That's all. Yesterday's trial was... Oh, it left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruto. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilda's trial. Ah, yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense. Is there just no defense lawyers in this country? If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. If that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome. The most terrible end awaits the defendant. Yes, that's right. Here we go again. Your time is up. You'll have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until court sits. 38, 37. This time he said 23 hours. He said there was plenty of time. And one more thing. Mr. Naruto. There's something I should like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds. Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world works so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Another thing? Continue. On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me. Something very important that I have to do. Something very important? And what exactly would that be? He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he'd ever made it to Great Britain. You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion. What's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details. How long has he been there? So, I wish you the best of luck. And bid you farewell. There's something very important I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we better talk to the detective, don't you think? I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Could we trouble you? What do you think? Lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, young Japanese upstart. Some flippery about the weather doesn't get every English gent eaten out of your hand, you know? Tsusano-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man, a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having the likes of you a-talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying, Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? Nah, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because of some bumpkin who's just here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. Eh? It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. Eh? It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? It's unseasonably fine, I grant you. London winters don't get a lot of sunshine. It's unbelievable! How'd she pull that off? So, Lauren Strongheart has asked me to fill you in on the case. Name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard. Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? You're acting like you know this man, Miss Susato, but... But he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well? Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Rants Magazine? That's right. Miss Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible. Well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is a pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. That's his highest praise? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That he is not. And thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London now. That's great, isn't it? I have to admit, to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. Fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying. But I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. Sure as eggs is eggs. Eggs are eggs. I get the feeling that a detective could be very hard work. Oh dear. Perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. Alright, Greggs. Tell me about the case. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear. That probably means, as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman was walking about the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital, unconscious. That's despicable! What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruto. Brace yourself, you've angered her now. Whew. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit. Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question? Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Sorry? There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. I don't know what accent I'm doing for Greggs. I'm going vaguely southern. I'm giving him a drawl. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Beric von Zykes. No! Sounds like you've heard of him, then. Oh, yes. We are very familiar with Lord von Zykes. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself. The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Beric von Zykes. I thought it was Baron, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilda told us about him before the trial, didn't he? Van Zykes stands for prosecution. They call the accused his sacrificial lambs. In every single trial in which he's been prosecutor, the accused has been damned. Oh shit! I mean, that's still correct even with that last case. Like, we might have technically beaten him, but Mr. McGilda was still damned. The Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty. Is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector. In yesterday's trial against Lord von Zykes, Mr. Naruto secured a verdict of not guilty. And what of it? Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant. But we didn't save him now, did we? No. You really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean? What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Magnus McGilda came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you? But what are you saying? Look, if Van Zykes could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles. He works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? Right, well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. Still carrying out a few investigations there. It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place. That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You've branded him a criminal already? He's as good as, shaking like a leaf in his cell, he is. I'll give you a chuckle, if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way. Inmate 53. Thank you. So, there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try. What is going on? Why is the dog barking? Give me 1 second. Tucker was just losing his goddamn mind. But I'd like to try. So I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes! Let's go. Let's go meet our client first. So these are the British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. Feels just like a dungeon. Yeah, having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these stone-cold walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruto. You're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here. It's so dark at the back there I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representative is eager to see you. Stop hiding in the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I a cat? Has yet with no name. Oh. calling me by a number. It's utterly unbelievable, unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruto, what? What do you think is going on here? I have no idea. If I wasn't just hearing things... I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That tirade of complaints was in Japanese. Hello? Excuse me, but who? Shh, quiet! They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now, I can sense it. Right. So, can I answer? There you are. You've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost. A ghost? Real-life Japanese novelist Soseki Natsume. Like this, if only they made sure that his hatred of his time in Japan was made clear. We mean you no harm, prisoner-son. Your hated time in Britain. Okay, yeah. Are you Japanese by any chance? This is beyond my wildest dreams. Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine. You're just a little surprised. That's all. Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am in a frightful fix in a foreign land. So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment. Who could have guessed that this new client, Lord Strongheart, assigned to us, would turn out to be a fellow Japanese? I thought you were going to say fucking bonkers. Ah. What compassion my fellow countrymen show. To dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to meet a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon. A first-class lawyer? Oh, dear. I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I wonder, would you be so kind to tell us as to what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example. Yes, I can, I will. Shan't say sullen and silent. I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notably, notoriously named Natsume. Soseki Natsume. So this is an actual person. What an unusual name. Call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see. A writer of haiku. Something of a nom de plume. Nom de plume? You mean an alias? That's right, Naruto-san. No, don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that. And haiku? That really reminds you of home. Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over here by the government? Yes, that's right. A year ago, I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery, and now this. It's beyond the pale. Suffered that misery? Did you not want to study here? No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. I think the dog wants to get in. What is he doing? Babe. You okay? So hyper. What's going on? Might have calmed him down a little bit. But just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it? No. What do you mean? They told me to, if they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That is my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. I see. Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on a white washi. You must be a man of great standing. Oh, yes. So I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems. So real quick, how old are you? You're 33. Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Seki-san? I didn't do it. I didn't commit that atrocious murder. Murder? Oh, no, it's alright. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife! Right before my eyes! Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here? Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient. So he was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my accursed lodgings. Sure the bookshop wasn't accursed too? As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. How terrible. I called out to the one, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. Slight exaggeration there, perhaps? I was terrified. I had to get away from there, so I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my cursed lodgings. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I know any of these fair-haired English? And a young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people. I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anyone pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? So the victim was unknown to you, there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? Who else could have done it? What do you mean? What's the conundrum? Well, if what Soseki-san has just told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says that he didn't know the victim, and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen. I did. But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit. What did you just say? Nothing. I didn't say anything. Oops, perhaps I thought that a little loudly. Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Soseki-san actually come to be arrested? He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh yes, she's right. It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck. Cursed great detective. Could it be? I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live, with his haughty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed busybody, be gone. May you be cursed until the end of your days, Erlach Sholmes. I knew it. I want to see what this guy looks like. Hold on. He... do enjoy that when I Google his name, there's two pictures of him. Very lifelike, like very, very similar. Like his mustache is a little more subdued in game. But like when you Google Soseki Natsume, it's two pictures of him and then from the game. It's beautiful. Mr. Sholmes. Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after that nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me, "This is the police, put the weapon down." Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon. Disgusting dietary discrimination, devils! You clearly had a trying morning yesterday. And there he was, in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. That Sherlock Sholmes. It's actually just Sherlock Sholmes. He's English, not German. I've since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London. Yes, the great detective is really well known. And his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm the knife-wielding madman. Me, this weak-stooped kitten of a man. I wonder what great deduction process led him to this conclusion this time. Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable. Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in. Of course you were. It's only natural. I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. Fiendish foreign flim-flammery. Well, we are in England. Can't really blame them for questioning you in English. Good point, but my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. Oh, yeah. I remember, yeah, he was Natsume. So I just kept repeating things like, "Yes, I do," and "I'm fine." Next thing I knew, I was in manacles. And before I knew it, I was thrown in the air. Oh, dear. I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine? He's not fine now. Oh, God. Mr. Naruto's Esquire. Oh, you can just call me Naruto. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough. Oh, yes, alright, yes, they've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, Why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself. On a study tour. A student? I have defended a case in the Old Bailey. Only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to be believing. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Oh, Naruto-san. I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm sort of a locum lawyer, I suppose. But that armband, that's the mark of a defense lawyer from our great empire. It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend. A keepsake. I know exactly what they're saying about me. Oh? Who do you mean? The lawyers. All the British defense lawyers. They won't defend me. Why do you say that? For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, there was only the victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Saseki-san. And anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them, someone not to be trusted. Heard them openly laughing about me before, in my ears shut, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said, and, of course, the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say, the man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyways. It's awful. They're wrong. I've studied more English than half of the policemen out there on the streets. I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Sasaki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can for the time being. What do you mean? We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it'll give us a much better chance, I'm sure. Oh, yes, thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. We should be going, then. We have a case to prepare for. No, sounds green. So, this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Is that a Robin Williams reference? Look at the regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know? But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, but I never dreamed I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet. What? The helmet? Of course. I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your Hattie dream comes true. What's a Japanese delegation doing here? Oh, Inspector Gregson. This isn't on the tourist trails, I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, of course. We're here to investigate. So you've been to the holding cells then? What do you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. We'll see about that. Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens. And the verdict's a foregone conclusion. Stone cold air of rejection. Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse, somehow. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing... Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part. Seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. Certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful? Being a Lundy Bobby is hard going, I can tell you. Oh really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes around and rouses all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work. He wakes people up. Yep, raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit. I had no idea. I think I remember reading about this somewhere. But Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. Can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles, that's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my. I suppose in between all those duties, bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle all those jobs as well. You have men keeling over from time to time, I admit. From exhaustion, I assume. I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruto. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just there on that open bit of pavement. Victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, won't be able to find out. Unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's your policy to give lawyers, defendants, suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. Gratefully accept. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming to not have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. What? We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now? Real quick, let's take a look at this map. Yes, that is the map. Who are these witnesses? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. A policeman? That might change things. This policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked? Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catching them banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. You know, I have no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So I'll give you something to look forward to. That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. Policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing. The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Erlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The color is drained from his cheeks. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it's Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was a result of Mr. Sholmes's great deductions. Fiddle faddle. The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime. He wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble gabble. Ever seen this before? Oh, yes, that's Ranced Magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And so-called Great Detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes tale at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly the Great Detective and the police have a complex relationship. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you gonna defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now, so waste the time trying. It's all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. The only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals. The violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He unpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. That's just my point, sunshine. Yes, the one young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth to, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself. Tomorrow's trial. You're really gonna have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it. I don't think we're gonna get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruto, can I make a suggestion? Oh yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. Trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address. It's Baker Street. How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. No, sea. Well, there's nothing stopping us from going, I suppose. We better try to find our way there before Susada-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage. So we'd have a reunion already with the great detective, Mr. Erlock Sholmes. Alright, let's check out the crime scene here. That is a sad bicycle. A British bicycle, look. Although the wheel is misshapen, misshapen. So I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. Seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well. The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Goodness, do you dislike bicycles? No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and fallen into a river, I know you'd agree with me. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometimes. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. Are these the slums? It's a rather typical old brick building. Sure, it has a long and interesting history. And time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. We must find some cheap lodgings ourselves as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. But cheap with ideally reasonably level floors. Look at the windows of that build. Oh yeah, it's all bricked up. Are you sure they're windows? Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks. Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment. There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though. Oh dear. Everything still feels very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place. You wanna talk to the Bobby? It's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons. I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern. Oh, no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what was going on. Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all. What a delightful snowman. Didn't realize the English had a tradition of making snowmen as well. Looks a little creepy, though. Oh, it has a scarf! Look! You'd need one if you were out in this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one. I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment, too. We certainly can't afford a scarf. Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his. The person who made the snowman certainly would. Yes, I know, you're right. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much warm to my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. Seems like we can't... This patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred. Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it? It's true. Can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding. Oi, what are you foreigners doing here? Yeah. Oh, we just investigating the scene, officer. Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are you? Conspiring? Come here to destroy evidence, have you? Get out of here before I give you an idle. Go on. You shoot us away like rats. Yes, we should give him wide berth, I think. What a disappointing experience. Clouds look so big and heavy in the sky, don't they? With the dense fog as well, everything looks hazy. Well, it is known as Foggy London Town. You can just make out some of the spire through the fog. Looks like it's still being built, though. Aha! Yes, that must be the Crystal Tower being built for the Great Exhibition that's to open in 6 months. Apparently it's going to be very striking, glazed on all sides in the symbolic centerpiece of the exhibition. It's to be the largest exposition in history, isn't it? Can't even begin to imagine it. Do you see all the black smoke rising from the chimneys over there? It says here that in Great Britain, many people heat their homes in the winter using coal. The only chimneys I really remember seeing in Japan were on top of the bathhouse. Do you think some of those houses could be on fire? Not at all. Well, even so, not much thick smoke billowing up to the heavens is surely going to turn the whole sky black sooner or later. Gosh, you may be right about that. Oh, that's a Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like that to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals. You're very well informed, aren't you? It's long been a dream of mine to ride one of those through the streets of London. I'll just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows then. But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it, wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way, help me find a good stone. No, I wasn't serious. I think that's all we can look at here. I'm not seeing anything. Piles of snow on the pavement here and there. The road itself is covered in carriage tracks. It seems carriages often travel down Briar Road. Soon disperses all the snow. Slept over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. Seems like it would be far safer to walk on the road instead. Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Naruto. And dressed in all black. A worried coachman might not see you. You could be flattened by horses. Well, thank you for the rather small concern. God damn it. I love from far away how dopey that he looks.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Good day.
Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
This is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Is it as described in the stories, Miss Susato? Susato-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. Never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. Detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog, down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please, don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me. Is anyone home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello! Is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Hello? Wait. Aren't you? Oh! How rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Miss Susato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh, yes. Isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came here to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. The King of Bowaria? King William Goshrick... Fuck me. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment, and look over there. Tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilda's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I have never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was, challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant, but yellow. Fragrant, but fragrant, yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Fuck you, that's clever. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial. And only briefly at that. Yeah, Sholmes is just doxed. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me! I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie? And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start. Yes! And so do I! I think I'm gonna make some tea. So, I thought that Iris was gonna be Sholmes' daughter. Adoptive daughter, it seems, now that Mr. Wilson is dead. I'm going to make some tea. I'm going to leave the music on. But my throat is already starting to tickle, and I don't think that we're going to be getting to a good break point for the stream soon. So, I will be right back, and we'll start chatting with Iris Wilson. We're back. I grabbed both tea and water. So, water and water. I think for next stream I might fix this up a little bit, have Casey on one side and Swan on the other. Night night. Do a smidge more. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. Printing out the cow. Printing out the cow. What's the height of this one? 74 pixels. There we are. It was you we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey. Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though, at the time, there was a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this? Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock! Herlock Sholmes! We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. Did you honestly think that man could stick his dick in someone? Well, that is hot. Use the coaster, Isabel. That's why you haven't. Hurley is a bomb. I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well, then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. How old are you? Your roommates? And they were roommates. I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old are you? 10, at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh, no, they're not around. Oh, I see. Wonder what the story is there. Ryunosuke, you were there for half of it. There's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, and... Oh! You have a copy of Ranced magazine. Yes! I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting! My stories are being read on the other side of the world! My stories? That's right! Early is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It'd be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Last night, he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you're the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm gonna call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? I think maybe having Swan as Iris might have been a good idea. So, do you mean to say, are there stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in the Rance magazine all written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. He's about to blossom in Japan's greatest author at 34 years old. And then there's 10-year-old Iris, who is a doctor, writer, and a scientist. Sato-sen's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes. That's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true, too. I am a doctor of medicine. No! No, you're not! At 10 years old? At 10 years old? I need to get the comic. Where's the fucking comic? Hold on. Is there a way for me to just... Can I just... Hold on. Hold on. If I do browser capture, what's that gonna look like? Alright, let's get rid of that. Do I not have a fucking... Okay, fine. It's fucking this comic. After a successful career as a detective, I became chief prosecutor at 27. I've always been at the top of my class, and in fact, some have called me a prodigy. I began prosecuting when I was 21. It could be said that I'm a prodigy. I received my prosecutor's badge at 20 years old. I've always been seen as a prodigy in my field. Achtung! I prosecuted my first case when I was 17. I'm definitely a prodigy. Look at his fucking mouth there. I have been prosecuting since I was 13 years old, because I am the most prestigious prodigy of all time. Of prestige. Check it out. I got my attorney's badge and I'm only 17. Pretty impressive, right? Shh. I'm trying to hear the new prosecutor. We're one step closer. Well, it's quite incredible. But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the settings slightly, of course, for the stories to be more compelling. So, the Wilson in these recaps is... Oh, fuck me. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. About before. Yes, what's on your mind, Runo? Do tell me. How did you know? That I was a lawyer and you just arrived in London, I mean. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although, there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her logic and reasoning spectacularly. First of all, I already knew that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh. So I was reasonably confident you must have only arrived just arrived here in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey? I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't really... Is Iris the one that's just been doing everything and Sholmes has been, like, taking credit for it because otherwise she is just a literal 10-year-old girl? And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, lemon tea with honey. Beautiful. The two of you had already cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly set expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, or at least solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Ryuno has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put 2 and 2 together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion to those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. I actually did the point. I did the point. Oh, it's contagious. Fuck me. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you see. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to discern something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please. Do like this fireplace. It's one of the best things I've seen since we arrived in the country, in fact. Lingering beside the fire and watching the flames flicker and dance in the grate. It's so relaxing. We can't relax, not when there's so many interesting things on the mantelpiece. Oh, it's just as it's described in the stories. It is. Yes, exactly! Inside that Persian slipper, for example, are my chocolates for 11s. And transfixed by that large jackknife is my shopping list for the market. Oh, it's not quite how I remember it being described in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Poor Susato-san. She looks crushed. Was there, like... Okay, so this is our office. All sorts on these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high, I can't help the feeling that the whole lot is going to topple at any moment. I keep telling Hurley not to cram so much on those shelves. Good advice. He wanted to look something up in one of those books a while ago. But it was so tightly wedged in, he couldn't get it out, so he went and bought a new copy instead. What on earth are this huge over-the-top machine? This is the Great Analytoscope. It can analyze anything, really. Anything at all. That's absolutely incredible. It's one of Hurley's inventions. It took him a whole year. He said it was to help him with his investigations. What sort of things has he analyzed with it? Do you know? Well, actually, he hasn't used it for anything yet. Oh. Why not? Apparently, on the evening he finally completed it, it suddenly occurred to him, I don't actually have anything I need to analyze. Oh, dear. How about you, Runo? Do you have anything you'd like to analyze? The only thing that springs to mind is this machine itself. Ah, I've seen pictures of Western musical instruments like this. It's called a violin, isn't it? Of course it is. Mr. Sholmes is renowned for his violin playing. Oh, really? That's right. I just sort of slipped that in. You did what? I didn't really give it a lot of thought and just started adding it to the stories. Yes, Mr. Sholmes' exceptional violin playing has been mentioned a number of times. But the truth is, Hurley had barely touched a violin in his life up to that point. Oh. Of course, people started asking him to play for them after my stories were published, and he wasn't able to tell them that he didn't know how. So what did he do? He went straight to the pawn shop and bought himself a very nice violin. And then he practiced. He practiced until his fingers very nearly dropped off. Must be why he's so highly strung. Before I knew it, he'd become rather good. The greatness of the great detective really shone with that experience, I think. It was a great deception, that's for sure. Looks like that huge metal chest is being used as a table for tea and coffee. Seems very sturdy, with an equally sturdy lock. Mr. Naruto, you mustn't go around opening things. I always have to keep an eye on you, don't I? You're very mischievous. How did you come to that conclusion? Ooh, that chest. It contains some of my most valuable things. And that smile tells me you're not going to give us any clue about what they are. A mystery shoe, a curious hammer, some mysterious dancing men, a bust of Napoleon. Ah, what an entrancing collection. This is the first time in my life I've seen a lonely old shoe displayed as an ornament. Oh, those are all mementos that Hurley has collected from his past cases. Really? Even the bust? Yes, that's right. When the mood takes him, he likes to throw it on the floor and smash it to dust. The Four Defenseless Emperor? Mr. Sholmes destroys it? Yes, and then he buys a new one. You make it sound like he has the temperament of an insane sculptor. Ah, how entrancingly bohemian of him. Oh, there's more this way. Oh. What on earth is that big black lump over there? Ah, that's a typewriter. It's a machine that allows you to write on paper without needing a pen. And wizardly quickly, too. Ooh, that sounds like it could be very useful for someone like me with terrible handwriting. Wait, Iris, are all the stories from the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes? Yes, everyone is typed on this trusty machine. Oh my goodness. How wonderful. It looks like she's been shown into the Tokyo Imperial Palace Gardens. What a beautiful English tea set, and so neatly arranged. It's a favorite pastime of mine. A cup of herbal tea in the afternoon. Tea made of herbs? That's right. I grow all sorts of herbs in the garden, so I can experiment with different blends. One moment, don't go away. I'll brew a pot of the special blend I came up with earlier today. She looks delighted. I only hope it's safe to drink. Ah, that's my blackboard where I note down ideas. Black Peter? What does that mean? Oh, how intriguing! It must be the title of Iris's latest work. Oh my, I wonder what fantastic tale awaits us. Susato-san looks like an angel, but I bet she's dreaming of the most grisly crime you can imagine. It's a case that Hurley solved just recently. A black cat called Peter went missing in the neighborhood. Hurley tracked it down at the fishmonger's in the end. Well, I can't wait for the story to be published. That's a charming little white shelf. It's full of charming little bottles, too. Oh yes, but don't touch any of those. They might explode. Explode. Are they exotic chemicals? Do you use them for exciting experiments? Yes, indeed. And as Hurley always says, chemistry is an explosive science. Sorry. I agree. A single discovery can trigger the explosion of innovation all around the world. Or perhaps he just meant it literally. Either way, mental note. Do not touch any bottle that belongs to Iris. Alright. You adorable little bean. What can you tell us about the case of the Japanese man? So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying. Yes! Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man run away from the scene. Short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any reasonable doubt. Saseki-san, he didn't see anyone else on the street at all. It seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man, shivering in fear. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark at that time. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I didn't realize the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time on investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. What the fuck? Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. Suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is. But in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Saseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well... I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume? Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Do you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson while you were there? Yes, you know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What is this? 5 shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, won't it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruto, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Okay, I think that's actually a good place to stop then. Before my voice gives out. I fucking love Iris. I fucking love her so much. Oh god. Cow, I can't do a British accent. Oh no, my tears turning me British. Cheers, love. Cavalry's queer. Fuck, I can't. I feel like I'm gonna be like hung for that. Ugh, whatever. Shut up. Don't say anything. Shut up. That'll be it for today's session. You know what, I'm gonna Alright. A moo. Courtesy of the Queen Moo herself. I'm glad I got myself to stream tonight. It's been hard for me to, like, get started with it. You know, like, the time leading up to it feels very daunting. And so... I don't know. Like, once I actually start doing it, I feel better. But it's the process of leading up to it that's like... I don't know. But I'll keep this up. Next stream will probably be Monday, since I don't have D&D that day. Yeah. And I've had some new ideas for stream stuff I could do. I don't know if I have a favorite song so far. Asogi's theme is pretty good. Iris's is nice, it's just that there's like those little like digital blips in there that kind of... I get what they're doing, but kind of doesn't... Gregson's is pretty good too. Oh shit, Gina comes back. Hell yeah. Alright. That'll be it for me tonight. I hope you have a nice night, Cow Cow. This cow shall return on the moon day. Night-night, everyone. Make sure to drink your water, take your medicine, and all that good stuff. Bye. Mwah.